Disclaimer. The information and education material contained herein is meant to promote the general understanding and dialogue of GANs processing. Such information is not meant or intended to serve as a substitute for a healthcare professional's clinical training, experience, or judgment. For patients and individuals, such information is not to be a substitute for professional medical, therapeutic, or healthcare advice or counseling. For medical issues or concerns, including decisions about medications and other treatments, readers, viewers, listeners should always consult their physician or, in serious cases, seek immediate assistance from emergency personnel. Prescription information, procedures, and use of medical devices information should be undertaken only by properly trained and certified medical personnel. We specifically disclaim any warranties, express or implied, including implied warranties of merchantability or fitness for a particular purpose. Such information is provided, as is, and is believed to be accurate at the time of its publishing, but it is the viewer's job to evaluate the accuracy of any information found in this presentation. Every case presented is of their own experience, applied by themselves for themselves, and it applies to their case only. Every person experiencing health problems should seek professional medical advice and consult their course of treatment with a doctor. The processes of plasma balancing described herein are a natural process which supports the body but does not replace medical advice or therapies one is already subject to.
To work on mathematics and mathematical formulation of plasma. Do you think the plasma processes of the Keshe Foundation have been mathematically modeled yet, from GANs formulas to other applied processes? So he's interested in working on the mathematical formulation side of plasma. Is there any work for someone like that? In the way you haven't given us too many formulas exactly for plasma.
I always said, have you ever seen God measuring things and mixing together and making a solar system? Everything is accidental, coincidental interactions. Let me explain to you why it cannot be done. It's in a very, very simple way. You cannot, if you understood the process of the Keshe Foundation work as a plasma, as a GANs, as a field, you cannot find two similar GANSes. I'm talking individual GANSes with exact specific characteristics at the same time in the same place. It's absolutely impossible. It doesn't matter how you turn it. Now, how are you going to write a formula about something which you have no control over? You can say, okay, I put 1 drop of amino acid. I put 1 drop of GANs CO2. Excuse me, how many GANSes are in that drop? Would it come to the time when we can count the GANs pieces in a drop? But then there is another problem. Sorry, they don't all have the same energy. So writing a formula for Keshe Foundation process of fields, you can try. It will be very interesting. As much as you can stop a woman shoe shopping, you can do what I call calculating. It's impossibilities. Because we can work within a frame, try to create condition within a frame. But in that framework, you cannot even dictate. It's all in the hand of creation and what they call creation of the fields and interaction of the fields. This is how the universe has been. Opportunist, and at the same time with no control. I said once, do you know why the universe and all the creations you have there is very cool like a ball? Because God loves to play football. And the footballists are the best opportunists. So it's impossible. You cannot formulate it. If you understand the principle of the work, it's impossibility to formulate anything about dynamic plasmatic fields and the rest of it. You understand this if you go back. I don't know if you even can find these papers anymore. Russian scientists in 1990s and end of 1980s start making computer programs and assumptions how vortexes of magnetic fields or matter states are created within the sun, and they went all the way to the center. I have these papers somewhere. I collected because it was very interesting how self-centered became the whole structure, how actually fields of or what do you call it, vortexes of the hydrogen or helium build themselves into the center of the sun, and then by compression of the center they create that elusive fusion to go out as a field, which is a lot of nonsense if you understand it. So what was interesting for me, how did these people calculate what's the strength of these fields? How many hydrogen pieces they consider into it? But it was very nice, the imagination they used to do it. And it's impossibilities. Because every atom of hydrogen, depending on its environment, depending on its strength at the point of creation and how long it's been created, what is given or taken, has different field strength. It's impossible if you truly understand the work of the plasmas, because you cannot repeat it. Something is calculable if you can. You cannot repeat it, because the next sense you made, even you use 100% copper, has in it a different atomic structure of isotopes. And these isotopes in the pack you put a one drop, how many of these isotopes are in there? You cannot measure it, and you cannot feel it. So if you've been with me enough, long enough, you know, I work on the average of, it does what it's supposed to do, so it has the fields. We cannot calculate it. In 2008, right now, in August, September, when I was in Sharif Tehran University laboratories building the first flight systems, first what we call dynamic power generators. This became a discussion between me and the Iranian scientist. They said to me, you open your reactor a few times a day. Because those days we had these, and how you all know, was the radiation source from the smoke detectors we were using. And I never used gloves and these things. I just picked them up, put them back in, and then I created enough aggravation for them, how this guy works with radioactive material without anything, because I don't absorb it. And I built a sense of where to position these 200 or 300, what do you call it, radiation sources, in what manner to get what field creation and what direction of motion. And I never relied on that, we do it this way. I relied on what I could see physically, the fields we create, ionization and everything else, fields of the plasma, and I could say, okay, you've seen it, the big ball, how this ball will, what do you call it, will move. Will it move to the left? Will it move to the right? Would it, what do you call, spin out of control? And this became a game for me for weeks in Sharif University. And I used to open a reactor, move some of the sources to one side, and then close the reactors. It wasn't just opening and closing, it was all these silicon seals I had to use, and screws and tightening and everything else. It used to take about an hour, 2 hours to actually get one system set. And I used to take the glue off the back of these radiation sources, move them slightly, and I could say, okay, now the system has to fly in the left side at what angle. And then we turn the system on and we actually get it. And put it this way, we were correct 2 out of 10 if we were lucky, but then we start mastering it in more deeper, we became like 3 out of 10. And even that, 2 of them was a bit dodgy, but we could now dictate the position of the, what we call rotation or rejection. We could not calculate, it's impossible to calculate how plasma will interact, how plasma will manifest itself. It's impossibilities. You cannot write a formula for the knowledge of the creator. He didn't come up with a what you call a formula why man is trying to do the job he never wanted himself to do. Otherwise, you know, when he created the earth, he would have dropped a letter in. Mix this, you get this, mix that, you get that. He didn't do it. And I don't think any of you ever, with even the fast computers, will be able to establish such a thing. It's absolutely impossible. It is not easy task, but it's literally impossible to write a formula. And you can repeat it. Once something is repeated, can be repeated, is a technology. And we don't have knowledge to be able to repeat, because it's in nature, it's natural process.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 506th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, October 5th, 2023. This is a broadcast of the Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute Education Department and part of the Public Teachings in English. My name is Rick Crammond, and I'll be host once again in this weekly series of Knowledge Seekers Workshops. And once again, we have the pleasure and honor of welcoming Mr. Mehran Keshe of the Keshe Foundation to give us today's latest information from the Keshe Foundation and the latest teaching on the soul teachings of the plasma technology. Mr. Keshe, would you like to go ahead, please?
Yes, thank you very much. Good morning and good day to you. As usual, wherever, whenever you listen to this series of Knowledge Seekers from Keshe Foundation Spaceship Institute. As usual, we welcome you back and we start thinking and sharing more and understanding more. It was interesting to listen to the intro and to realize how true this is. A few minutes literally before the beginning of session, talking about knowledge seekers, discussing how actually we can produce something which God creates so easily, we can come up with a solution to copy it in a new way. And knowledge seekers think of the way as they experience it done, but then it goes back to a fundamental point of energy, fundamental point of plasma energy, in understanding how energies of the plasma of ganses can be utilized with each other, against each other, and in conjunction with each other. The interesting point for us comes in comprehending the process of creation. Then in the universe, we should have no problem in finding a way, even as a soul, to add to our energy or to take from our energy source, to go into the higher order and come down to a lower order. When we transmute and we decide to take the direction towards the understanding of the fields of the Creator, what do? And then we go into strength, understanding the strength of the creation towards unicos. But we still miss home. We want to come back and be a human. How do we get the energy back? Or how do we reverse the process to become a human? But what is the process of becoming a human cell? How do you don't reverse the position, but how do you give up so much to become back, but knowing the path that you can go up? It's like climbing a mountain. You climb down a rope, but have you got the strength to climb back up? How do you gather that strength while you're hanging in the middle? You're not up or down. What happened to us? How do we dictate this energy? How do we know what to collect? How do we know what to give up? How do we know jump across the fields? Because there is somewhere, there is a shortcut, there is a way to go across the higher to the lower. And then, as said at the beginning of the intro, there is no formula. It's understanding of one's soul's strength. Understanding of the process of creation in the energy level, not in the matter level. Understanding of the totality. And the more we understand of the totality, we find out, we realize we know nothing. Then a new search, a new position is created to understand the next and the next. And then what is beyond the next, and how can I go back to where I started? The hardest point, one of the, what I call most difficult things for man will be how to come down. Stepping up is easy because you gather. How do you become a lover? How do you give unconditionally with a hope that you end up in the physicality of the man? When we dream, we come back to our physicality. We show, we reduce the strength of the blood flow, and that's it. Because in a way, when we climb down on a stone or a tree or whatever to support us, that we can go back up again. When we're in a human body, then we dream, we got that hook. That hook is the physicality, the soul of physicality has anchored us. But when we die, that anchor is not there. That's why we can't come back. But when you have created a condition, when you have the connection between the soul of creation, the soul of created, the soul of physicality, the soul of the man, then how do you climb up and down this ladder of the energies of the universe? There is no calculation. There is no scale. There is no graphs. There is nothing there except the true understanding of the creation. What do we anchor ourselves to come back to Earth? And what do we have to give up to become a human? And would many of those who have elevated would like to come back to where they anchor themselves, to pain of physicality, to kill, to live, to destroy, to exist? Now you understand why there is no formulas. It's literally one understanding of his own creation and how he got to it. You know the old story of the little boy who dropped the bread as the stepmother was taking him to the jungles, and then he looked for the bread to come back home, but the birds have eaten the bread's crumbs he dropped on the way. How do we create that condition? How do we understand which one is the bird and what is being taken and what we need to put back in to go up or to come down? This is why I keep on saying that the soul of physicality within the soul of the man is a fundamental point of man to return back. But it's not that easy once you detach yourself from the environment of the plasma of the earth. Jumping and hopping around, yes, you can do. But when you have rooted yourself, where are you going to come back? This is why I keep on saying, and one day mankind will understand that resurrection is a fallacy as much as a fusion. Because the soul of the man is separated from the soul of physicality. We dump the anchor. When we do it ourselves, we hold on to the anchor. We know where we anchored it. And this is part of our understanding of the totality of the creation. And unfortunately, our souls does not carry a calculator and does not carry a system to reduce or increase or whatever. Then you understand where the feeling comes from. Each feeling creates emotion in certain condition. In a physical condition, certain emotion makes us cry. Certain emotion makes us laugh. Certain emotion makes our hair rise. Certain emotion gives us the feeling of love. Then you understand. From the very first teaching of the Keshe Foundation, especially in the health, when we did sessions with Dr. Elia Kostova, how I emphasized on emotion. Now that we say, it has come to roost. It has come to the point where we have to understand what our emotion between soul of physicality, emotion between soul of the man plays for man to come back down. And the most interesting is how you can use, how you can take part of the soul of physicality to feed the soul of the man, to elevate the soul of the man, to meet and become part of the soul of the creator. You don't need to look outside to find an anchor to go up. You look within to find a solution which is already within you to create a condition of that elusive magic what man has dreamt about, to reach, to understand, to be part of the creator. 1 second to be the dimension of the understanding of the universe, and the second after be the dimension of the man. Isn't this that all the teachings been going through for past 500 odd sessions and the others? We teach in the language of the creator, and immediately we teach in the language of man. Understanding this is cornerstone of the man understanding of the knowledge of the creation. This is why we call ourselves teachers, because we have access to the knowledge of both ends. We were taught the alphabet, and we were told the degrees of PhDs in how to use the alphabet to make sense for every created thing in the universe, and not only man. That's why when we teach for the universe and not just for the man. Even the man only takes his physical dimension of the voice. The reality is, would man ever be able to understand this? To transmute between the two souls, to transmute in direction of the soul of physicality and the soul of the man. Take the shape of the man, but within understand the work of the universe and the positions of the field, the strength of what he wants to be, that in a way it becomes that vehicle, it becomes that point that he points a laser to it, and then you carry on through the physicality, through the soul of physicality. And then when you are, if it is good enough, if it's what you expected, you might go through the reverse transmutation through the emotion to manifest yourself in the dimension of physicality of the time, space, and race. This is part of what man had to understand. This is part of what we need to comprehend in essence of the creation. Would man ever be able to understand this? Even the prophets of the past did not pass more than one level, because they could not explain, they could not see to teach further, as the man was not ready for that process. It took man billions of years to get to this point, and in some 500 odd sessions, we taught enough that the man can jump billions ahead to understand more, is mature enough to technically and scientifically has developed understanding of the science of creation, that it does not need the tool of the man, but he understands the process. And it does not need degrees. It needs understanding of our own essence of creation, the source of creation, the source of elevation. And then in that process, man shall not cheat. Man will understand to do the process the way it has to be. Because when you speak about the three sets of mitra, talk good, do good, think good, just only for yourself and nobody else. You cannot cheat the soul of the man by the soul of physicality, and you cannot cheat the soul of physicality by using the soul, because either one cheats will create the demise of the other. Either one gives up, it brings an end. Isn't this what happens in the soul of the physicality departure, in essence of the time when the soul of the man leaves, and we call it death? They cannot cheat, so they come to an agreement. They balance the book to be correct. So we understand there is no formula. It cannot be, it's impossibility to write a formula how to use this system to elevate your soul. But you can create conditions of, you can teach how to use that controlling system, we call it the emotion. It's not like using an onion and creating tears, and you don't know if that tear is emotion of love or hate or fear. It's just mechanically produced. Carries no emotion. Where the same tear, when you love your child and hold it, carries the emotion of love. When you lose your mother, the tears of loss brings the emotion of sadness. It's the same drop. It's the same liquid. What emotion you put into it creates a condition of physicality, and the soul is finding out what we can do. What is our strength? Can we stand absorbing the emotion of the love of the mother, and can we cry and understand the loss of the mother with the same tear. This is for man to understand how important what man calls emotion is the tool of the control. I reach the destination. I'm happy. I feel good. I manifest myself. The fields in this place are balanced in respect to me, and I feel just. I do good if I appear in the dimension of physicality, and I don't do anything wrong, because then I can manifest the soul of physicality in this dimension of physicality. Now you understand, even the ethos of Mitra is for the man himself and not for the others. As each one soul does not do the correct thing, the other soul will suffer. Then you understand the cornerstone of the teaching of Moses: thou shalt not steal. Then you understand how man has been taught in simple ways, but man always took the dimension of physicality and not the dimension of energy and creation. How far man will go to understand this, and how far would man endeavor to test this? Then you understand how you manage today to see in your dream the mother passed away years ago, and how hard you tried for 20 years to see her, and the doors were shut. You have no control over your dreams because you have not learned the emotion. Create the love of the mother, create the joy of the touch, create within you the feeling of the kiss of the mother, and close your eyes. You create a dimension of physicality, and then you dream. And then you say, I was thinking about the touch of the mother today, and today, because it was so sincere, that love, I dreamed about my mom. In fact, you didn't dream. You open the channel of the field of the strength of the emotion of the love through the circulation of the blood flow in the dimension of physicality. Now maybe you understand how it works. Now maybe for the first time man knows how to create the emotion, because it's felt in the dimension of the physicality. So now you have the formula, you have the judgment of it. But was that feeling of the kiss you received, was the feeling that the mom gave? Mom gave you a kiss, not because of the love of it, but it felt that way. But it's just because you fell down and you needed that emotion of the love. This is why you cannot dream every time you want to see the mother, because you have not understood the essence of the emotion which that kiss was created from, was given, and that the strength of the emotion which was received by you. Mother kissed you to kiss it better, because you're so stupid. You keep on falling and you don't understand. She rises you and gives another kiss. When would this child mature? And you see there's a kiss of the love of the mother, because she loves you. But in fact, you've been the fool who do not understand how to walk, and you walk again on the same stone and you fall again. Now you understand. How can you measure the emotion? And the other point of it is the recipient of the emotion has created the same feeling as you. I dream about my mother anytime I like. She's present all the time around me. How many times you heard this? The fact is, that time, that emotion was the true emotion, and you have learned the way. Now try to do it with the dad. Passed away years ago. About the dog you loved when you were a child. See if you can. Can you repeat it? Then you start learning your measurements of the emotion. what emotion it created. This is how, as I've said many times, we go to 100,000 football stadium, then you have no connection to no one. If you've ever been to one, and you walk out of the stadium and you see one man across the road, and you fall in love, or one woman sitting across you in the cafe, very remembering what happened in the match. And it changes your love because they feel the strength is matching and is mutual. There's no use falling in love one-sided. The emotion does not carry. When you stand in that stadium, when you stand with 100,000 people, you created different love, different emotion, and then you all chant and shout at the same time, the same thing, and it sounds as every single man in that stadium says the same word individually. I don't know if you've ever been there. I don't know if you have ever tested this. As a football lover, when I used to go to the 100,000 stadium in Tehran for the matches, always puzzled me, how come I shout, but I hear everyone shouting the same as me? And what the emotion used to raise amongst the men, amongst the soul, amongst the emotion. It puzzled me how to understand this from childhood. The first time was magic, the second time it had a reason, the third time was, how does it work? And trying to understand how we can even synchronize the emotion that 1,000 of us, 10,000 of us can at the same time land on the same planet and colonize in one go. Not one man landing, hoping you find another soul. This is where the true colonization will come. This is where I explained many times, 8 billion population on this planet is not enough. If man starts truly colonizing and truly work together to bring that change. Go to destinations and start making colonies of the true love of the Creator in the essence of the soul of the man. I turned around to my uncle and I said, how come all these 100,000 shout the same? I hear myself, but I'm a tiny boy standing in the stadium. What emotion created within us is balanced and in common with others. And then if you understand this, what commotion will create among the other souls to hear what you say. Then you understand how hard it is to create that voice, that emotion in the soul of every created thing on this planet, that thou shalt not kill. What is the abhorrent feeling of the killing? That the man will feel together. And at that time, man stops. Now you understand. Can we write a formula for this? Even though so many of us at the same time might have the same feeling. We love our children, and the love is sincere and true, but we love them even we create them slightly different than the other. Even when we love the twins, it's the same. When we love our sons, it's the same. But how we create that love amongst the two women, or amongst two men, or amongst the creatures of the universe. And which part of the emotion? How come we dream with the emotion of the mother. And then we dream about the mother and the father together. So we are capable of creating different emotions, but at the same time, and connecting them to each other. In a way, in the dimension of physicality, we call it alloys. In the dimension of the field of the emotion of the man, we call it the emotion towards the mother or the father. But in fact, we can connect them to each other at different strengths, but through the common denominator to be the same. In our dream, we see them together, eating with them, enjoying their presence. But if you understood this, that you can create different dimensions of emotion, what is next? What have you been blind to? Or what you've been ignorant of? If you could connect and see the mother and the father who passed away, and then understand through the common denominator, then isn't it logical that through the essence of the creation, we see the third, which could be the soul, the creator, at the same time as the mother and the father. But with that, we give the dimension of physicality. What about the soul, the energy, the fields of the creator? And then something happens, we say, this guy is blessed. No, because he has managed to create the direction and dimension and connection, the feeling of the emotion of the creation. Even a planet has emotion. Even a star has an emotion. And when man understands this, you can understand the emotion of the planet even before you go to it. You don't need to be there. But you know if it fits for your physicality to manifest itself, or you're just a tourist going through. We call it rain. We call it thunder. We call it volcanic eruption. We call it the earthquake. But haven't all these created by the interaction of the matter state of the field of the soul of the planet and the solar planet itself? In the same words, we call it a shout, we call it a cry. When man tears, and when the clouds rain, when the man shouts, and when the earth creates thunder. When a man shivers from his own wrongdoing, the earth creates its earthquake. Haven't been choosing the same emotions, but different words for different conditions. Then can you imagine what happens when the creator sneezes? Then can you imagine what it means when the creator cries from the love? Then you understand how feeble man has been in understanding the process of the creation and emotion. And in that process, understanding there is no formulas, is understanding one creation of oneself. Not to steal from the soul of physicality, and not to give too much to the soul, just because it's stolen from the earth. This is how, if you would have understood totality of the teaching, when we breathe, the soul of the man takes the higher energy, and the physicality takes the lowest, because if the physicality takes the energy which comes in at that high level, will create mayhem within the lung of the man. Now you see how these two physically work with each other, accommodate each other, share, but the survival of that. And then you understand why, by changing the rhythm of your breathing, you can change the freedom of the soul. Then you understand much more. If you understand the operation of the hydrogen, if you understand the combination, the way the hydrogen reaches the body of the man, and the way it's created, the essence of creation shows you the path to the creator. And if you understood, you have found your path to the world of creation. For those of you who join us in the session tomorrow, and then you join us in the second session, we create that path. Deliberately in our system, we have set to create that condition, to see how you feel, to see how you approach, to see what energies are needed by you to find a path, to find the way to receive. Maybe tomorrow's session we'll speak maybe for 5 or 10 minutes, and we close the session in silence. Maybe for 1 or 2 hours, depending what we see, depending on what we try to understand. The systems are set up deliberately for this, for tomorrow. But then maybe through it, you find out how to elevate. You find out how to receive. You find out how to give. And you find out how to find a solution for what I call elevation of the soul in a correct way, by yourself and not by stealing. Not stealing from anyone else, and not by stealing from soul of physicality or the soul of the man. Tomorrow's trials, which you join us, will open a lot of things for us and for you. In a way, we encourage you, for you to be able to elevate, to have the availability to elevate your own physical dimensions to the soul and the soul of physicality through the fields which are there for you to use. And then you have to learn how to use the emotion. In a way, we have created a party table set. Which fruit, which sandwich, which drink you want to take from this table. Are you drinking with a maid? Are you having your fruit, having a chat with your mom? You're taking the food for your child, which is hungry. It's the same table. It's the same energy. It's the same love of the Creator. It's you who will compartment it. You put it in there. I want to see Mom. And this is the energy I need to see Mom. This is the energy I need to feed myself. And it's the energy which brings me the flow of the fields of the universe I call water. Man has not even understood the power, the strength, the life and understanding of the fields of the water he drinks, and 95% of his body depends on. Isn't the essence of the creation holding to the gravity of this planet, as we always said? In the matter state, magnetic fields are measured by iron. We call it magnets. And have we said many times that in the dimension of the gas and liquid, that the magnetic field is oxygen. And then, how come you have not understood through that essence of initial stage, the fundamental energy of the plasma of the hydrogen, and two of it, one connected to the energy levels of the man and one connected to the energy of the universe and the creation and the creator, you still live and you're ignorant to it. This is the secret of life on this planet. And it's the same right across the universe. The lover has never forgotten his love. You call it H2O and you don't even understand what it means. You're so physical. Why do you need two of the same to be connected to the dimension of physicality of this universe, of the planet, of the man? Now you understand. What you drink gives you access to both your soul of physicality and your creator, and you've been ignorant to it because you never understood. You called it against, you called it whatever you like. You put it in the table of elements, but you never understood the elements which has created you from the energies of the creator, your path, your way, and your direction and dimension to that position and time and the space and place you call the creator. Maybe now you look at the life, why you exist the way you exist, and maybe again you find a path to your creator. But don't forget, just because man decided to call it 2 hydrogen, as I said, there is no measure one that you can add it up. You find access. When you drink that water, the energy of it is instantaneous. 1 hydrogen feeds the soul connection to the creator, and 1 feeds the physicality of it. And even when you breathe, you say, I'm taking oxygen. I'm creating connection within the hydrogen fields of my lung to keep the circulation of the fields of the soul of the man that is connected to the field of physicality of the man ongoing. And when you cut one out the other, you call it death. And then you understand how little you understood. Even from what it created you, what you depends on it, that what connects you to the creator. And this is the strangest part, and I always wondered how much man would run around ignoring what is being his and connection to him and to his creator, and in the ignorance, as I always say, is a bliss. Now you understand. Maybe. Now maybe you understand more that even the earth, the water, the field, the strength of it is the essence of your creation and not the matter of it. Then maybe you understand a little bit more why we come from a different part of this planet. And then we have different emotions. We have different features according to that emotion. The hydrogen created in one part is slightly different, but consistent with the inertia fields of the place creates that image. Does not matter what you do. If we keep a man in a certain position for long enough, he will change from black to Chinese, and from Chinese to black. Does not need that evolution of the time crossing the Straits of Hormuz and splitting to the north, to the west, to the east to become Chinese, European, or Russian, and the rest. And you can speed this up in one instant if you understand the process. In the upcoming conference in London, people will try to show you this through the dimension of physicality, but you understand the knowledge to the ignorant people of the public who have no clue. This is magic. Everything which connects man to the life of his physicality is connected to the both. Otherwise, you don't have it. Look at the structure of your amino acid. That oxygen, magnetic field of the planet Earth, the hydrogen, connection to the dimension of the soul of the man and the soul of the creator, to the dimension of life on this planet, free till the point it comes in touch with the water. When you have amino acid and no water, you have no life in the dimension of solar creation. When you create that sack of protein and you put water in it, you create life, a cell. Because now it's connected both to the dimension of the matter state of the position, time and place we call Earth, and to the soul and to the creator. Now you understand why some of you get so fat through the emotion, and why some of you get cancer through the same emotion, and why through the same emotion and the same water you fall in love. In past 10 minutes, I've explained the wisdom of the creation, all the way from the creator to the man. I wonder how many thousands of years it will take man to understand this. And if you understood this, then it comes the truth, how much we have ignored everything about ourselves, about life, and then you go back to the original teachings. I keep on talking about the emotion. What emotion you put to that protein and what emotion you put to that water, in a way, by controlling it, you call it salt content, salinity. You dictate the same cell to be the cell of the heart, to be the cell of the lung, to be part of the emotion of the creation within the brain of the man. I have given you the secret of creation. And I'm sure one day, one man will understand what has been explained. And then if you do, you have found your path to exist in both dimensions, as we do. In a way, you connect to the soul. Our physicality stays the same, but depends which soul, in what dimension and direction, shares the knowledge, the transmutation, and the source of the creation at the same time, through the same field of strength of the source. And then you understand why everything in the universe has one common denominator, comes from the same. In field of strength, not in physicality of a body. I've taught you a lot today, if you understood. I opened the secret passage of life on this planet and beyond. I showed you the way to your creator. And I'm sure you still will be blind to understand it in the knowledge of the emotion, to be able to create that condition for your own survival. As is said beautifully in Quran. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Then man understand the 100th name of the Creator, which has been elusive to him, and complete what he's been wishing and understood in many holy books. If you understood the essence of the teaching of today, then you understand why man is so physical. And then you understand why the physicality has been detrimental for him to reach to his creator in the dimension of the fields. And he's always worried which hell and which heaven he will get his way when he separates from physicality. I hope you understand this, and I hope one day you mature enough to understand the totality. Would like to go to a break and we come back. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Keshe. So we'll take a little break here with our videos, and this is the 506th Knowledge Seekers Workshop here on Thursday, October 5th, 2023. We'll be back shortly.
The revolutionary new Flight Enhancement Spaceship unit is due to be launched in June 2022, and in the same year is expected to fly passengers into space, to the moon and beyond for a day or even several days at a time. There is no need for the Flight Enhancement Spaceship unit to carry food or medicine, as it is equipped with the latest space technology for transportation, transmutation and deep space operation. This extraordinary breakthrough technology ushers in a new era of travel without the need of fuel, food, or medicine, even during the longest excursions into deep space. Each spaceship unit has a 4-passenger capacity for long or short duration flights and has the capability to travel between cities on Earth in a matter of seconds to minutes, depending on the distance and speed. This ability to traverse massive distance in such incredibly short time is not just a breakthrough for human transport, it also completely revolutionizes the transportation of goods and cargo and will rapidly overcome the need for one of our most polluting practices, namely marine shipping, as it finally breaks us free not only from the combustion of heavy diesel, but from the combustion of any fuel for propulsion in the future. The Flight Enhancement Spaceship Unit, a new paradigm in space travel, space medicine, and space technology.
Okay, we're back again at the 506 Knowledge Seekers Workshop here. And usually in the second half, Mr. Keshe is willing to answer questions from people in our chats and various inputs here. So, Mr. Keshe, I'm assuming you would like to do the same thing, but perhaps you have something you'd like to say first.
Yeah, you said willing. That's a very good point. He is willing to answer questions. The thing is, we are willing to, but is the man ready to understand it? Yes, if there are any questions, I just wanted to remind you that as of next week, the conference is in London, go public, and will be announced through the medias, which is left with what we call the promoters of the event. Please make sure that everything you want to do and you want to be present is there and the way it should be. And we try to make the best of it, to make it a point to be remembered by many people. One of the beautiful things which will come out of this, maybe we said it before, you might understand it, or we mention it now, is for the first time that this conference will be live on Zoom. This conference will go on Zoom live and it'll be monitored. And it's only for the world leaders. In allowing and trying to bring high-level diplomats into London creates a massive problem for many nations. As you know, the tradition is if a president comes to UK, has to be met by the Prime Minister or by the King. Depends if they're the King or a President or a Prime Minister, according to that level. If a King of a nation comes to, the King of England has to meet him to greet him. It cannot be met by Prime Minister or whatever, and this is a tradition has been. And this will create a lot of problem. We've spoken to people we know in influential places and presidential and what we call some of the world leaders. And the best solution we have found is to create a specific zone for the world leaders to come in. This makes it a lot easier for us to transfer and convey the message directly to the top. And this allows a common sense to come across the world leaders. So there will be a live Zoom session of the conference, but specifically only for the world leaders and what we call those who are the decision makers in government. And the rest, because there's no problem for many of them to get a visa to come into London for that period, that should be no problem. So if we manage to get our way through and get things done, there will be a Zoom session. It will be fully controlled, and I'm sure controlled by the security and many government officials. And this will be open to, we know the first 3 or 4 presidents, world leaders will be online. It's already been set up for them. We expect many ambassadors to take the same path. Because you got to remember, we are not just inviting, for example, the ambassador of Liberia in London. We're inviting all the ambassadors of Liberia across the world. So you will see interaction with the world leaders and ambassadors. Maybe the Iranian president online as much as the American president. They want to talk, it's free. They chat in the background, it's free. No one will know. But the session will be run in that way. The event will go on the live stream, and Zoom, a specific situation will be made for them to be accessed. We do not know who will watch on the other end, but this will be done directly to what we call the people who are in that position. Would it be the president, his wife, and his cabinet, and the others to watch, to see what is going to come to head. There'll be some shocking developments for a lot of world leaders, and maybe an international conference will be called immediately within the time of next months or years for world leaders how to handle this technology, how to bring now that everybody knows an African nation is as powerful as the United States in science of space and technology. What this balance will bring, where the superiority goes, where the weapon superiority becomes nonsense in the world of the others, where now every nation has access to the latest space technology. In the next few days, in the next 2 or 3 weeks, with our partners in the Chinese government, we try to find a solution that maybe the Chinese leadership will take the leadership in this conference on the Zoom. And we'll see how we build it up and how it will come. But those of you who've been in the conference, you will remember it. This is where we bring the change. This is where we strive to bring that change through technology. It's a knowledge and not a talk. They can ask the scientists to test and to see. As I said, those of you who come to London, anywhere within the city center is the right place to be. You're not very far. You're a few minutes from the conference hall. And I hope you enjoy this beautiful event, which brings many changes. Not only for you, but to those of you who you consider as your rulers. They'll find out all men are equal and all nations are equal, because now the knowledge is shared amongst all. They don't need to look for handout to finance it, even though with the support of the Chinese government, we try to create that, facilitate that it doesn't become a handout, but it becomes a point of equal and in all measures. I hope we'll see many of you in London, and I hope that the world community would embrace this knowledge in a way it should be done to create the next step for peace. And as we said, technology in exchange for peace, for nations and for man, all equal. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Yes, we have a couple of questions to start with in the YouTube. The questions were there basically before you were starting to talk about dreams and the way that the soul leaves the physicality, both in dreams and in passing at death. So the question from Nina was, may I ask, when we wake up from a dream, why is it that we remember so little of it? And can you explain more about dreams?
It depends who you are. When you speak, I was talking to one of the knowledge seekers very recently, how they remember every detail of a dream. And I said, how can you remember all that? And they tell you even where there was a spoon and where there was a fork and who was standing there. I said, how can you remember it so precise? He says, it's just as it is. And I do have 10 dreams and I can tell you every, and I sit there and I listen and they can tell you every detail about it. And somehow I had to remember, I can't remember, but I remember having a dream about something. It is what I call dementia of emotion, what we would like to remember. And how important is to us in touching our emotion, becoming part of us. And some of us get up from a dream and it changes our life because they feel the strength of the information or the image or what I call the emotion is exactly the same as ours at that time and second and moment. We get up. We change our life because of the dream. And it's just amnesia about what we want and how that dream is important to us. I know a lady who know her very well, who changed her religion because he had a dream about a prophet in her dream that she did not know existed in the moral way, in the way over there. And she went and looked, and it was there. And she never lost the love for that for the rest of her life. She had that dream in the early 20s, and she died with the same love in her 80s, very recently. So it's us who decides, and depends on the emotion or connection with that emotion or information which we have. I still remember one of them when my mother had a dream, and I explained that before. It had no meaning to me, I had no feeling about it, but it was so deep in her that it touched her when I was only 19, 20 years old. And I went downstairs, and she was sitting at the dining table and crying. I said, "Why are you crying, mother?" "Oh," she said, "I had a dream, you're dead." And I said, "I'm here." And I asked her about the dream. And years later, that dream came reality. In a way, she understood what that dream was. And I've seen people who dream and they jump out of the bed and they run. The fear of what they saw. It's us who decides how to interpret, and depends what that information brings for us to create what condition of emotion. Interesting is, a lot of people tell you, "I never dream." And if you go deep enough, you find out they do nothing but dream life. In the process of tests, or what we call sessions of tomorrow and next week, we try to show you how and which strength and dream you have, and how you control what is called a dream. Actually, you work through the expansion of the soul, connection of the soul. In the sessions of tomorrow and next week, you'll be tested in a very beautiful way for yourself. And we won't reveal anything about it till next week, after the end of the session. But don't forget, this is still one headphone, it's the same headphone and nothing else. But the way we tested the people for sugar and for salinity last time, this time we test you for something totally different. But last time you saw it, you felt it, you measured it through physical means. This time is all to do with your soul. But it's the same test, but in a different way. This time, you are the tool of measurement. You are the tool of the essence of the emotion. And then maybe in the upcoming sessions, we connect the physical and the emotional side together. And then you see how you can manifest yourself in the depth of the universe. Those of you knowledge seekers who kept on coming with us all the way through all these tests, and you're everywhere, you'll find a magic very soon in your process of life, because you'll find access to both if you understood one and or the other. Last month, we showed how we control, how we can change your physical dimension, salinity, or what we call the sugar level. You saw it, you measured it, you understand it. Now this time, we play with changing of the condition, and you play yourself in what you want to take from the table we provided. And when you answer, as usual, what I call the questions at the end of the second week, then you find out the magic. Last time we showed you the dimension of physicality. This time we show you the dimension of the soul. And then you see what you remember and what you wanted to create to remember. And then you understand how we make it a passenger of the universe through yourself and not through us. And then you understand why you remember some and some you don't, and you ignore, because in a way it goes into the memory bank, but in a way you don't want to remember that memory, and you say it has no effect on you. Any other question?
Well, we have a couple of other related to dreams. One from Doug McDonald in the Q&A here. Do the animals, plants, insects, etc. also dream and have emotions to set their soul free to transmute even to the Creator?
Yes, of course. Have you ever watched your cat or dog laughing in the sleep? Have you seen them, they frown? Have you seen them, suddenly they jump up? Exactly like a human, so of course. Have you ever walked in the forest? In a way, it's part of the survival lessons if you ever work or been in these teachings. They tell you which way the sun is. They tell you how the weather is going to be by the plants, by the trees. Have you ever seen the mole holes on a mountain, on the hill? If you look at the trees, by the strength of the branches, they show you the direction of the south or the north, or where the sun comes from. If you watch the mole in the autumn, by the position of the hole you see of the mole is just on the hill, you can tell the emotion of it knows it's going to be a rainy year, dry year, or it's going to be a not bad good. If it's a wet year, he makes the hole right on top of the hill because he doesn't want to get flooded. And if it's an average year, he'll dig the hole in the middle of, but still sometimes makes a mistake. You look at 10 different mole holes in different, same area, in different places, and you get a good feeling of if it's going to be a dry year, a wet year, or God's help, the same. So yes, they do have emotion. If you understood agriculture, why do farmers change every season from one grain to another? We need to learn a lot, but some of our ancestors understood. They were observers of the power of the knowledge and emotion. That mole is connected to the emotion of the planet, months ahead of us. It's the same. If you want to ignore it, always stick to it. If you feel it and you get it right, You dig a hole right on the top, you come closer to the creator, as you call it. If you dig it at the bottom, you get flooded, that's the end. Too late to move. And this is a strange with everything, depends a lot when it comes to larger scale, how, for example, governments work with this, with the knowledge, having it and ignoring it, and then live with the perils of it. Any other question?
Well, carrying along with the dream theme, we have a question from Maria, both in the chat and the Q&A. And it's kind of in two parts, but I think she sums it up in the second part. She says, in dreams, we meet divine beings or receive orders or knowledge. Is it the higher own self? Can misleading emotions, which originate from the brain, cause something like that? Don't we have to distinguish between them? Does it depend on one's own higher development, which determine the quality of dreams? For others, the actual reality?
It depends. I usually jokingly, but has a lot of sense to it if you understand it. You have the dreams, which is connected to your day, physical work. A lot of people have a dream, depends what there was a conversation today with the others. They carry that dream and then connect it because of whatever emotion it created to the condition. You hear about an accident and then something happened, and then that night, oh, the next day say, oh, I had a dream about the accident, blah, blah. And because you know about it the day before or the few days before what talked about, you see it. And then, but they don't see it, but you connect it, say, wasn't this we talking yesterday? And now you say you had a dream. It's very much like Google up today. You try this with Google. Very interesting. They have this system of recognition. You talk about you want to go to Mexico and see the mountains, blah, 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 for example. And then suddenly, 48 hours, 24 hours later, Google sends you a message. Mexico is blah, 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 blah. Would you like to have whatever they said? And you say, oh, I was thinking about it and see what happened. No, Google, even your phone is open, closed, you're not talking to anyone, gathers information and through it make it advertising. There is no coincidence. So it's the same with you. You try it, you mention things, and then you see it a few days later, appears something on your mobile phone, then you understand the commercial emotion, what I call it, dream. And you do the same in other ways. You know, you get a letter shots coming through the post or something, somebody sends you a letterbox and gives you an indication of what it will be. Some of the information we receive as a dream is that letterbox. It's a mass distribution of things or individual distribution of emotion. And it depends what we connect with and what we are in touch with. And then we receive information to correct what was as a dream or try to understand it. And I witness this in my own life, but because I stand outside it, I look at it the way it is. You receive connection the way like you want to see mom, but mom is not there and you can't dream tonight about it. Or you wait, what happened? Oh, I see my mom every day, I want to speak. Because you have that connection of the souls. So it manifests itself a different. But you understand it in a different way. And we interpret it different way. But in essence, if we become aware of how dreams are structured, everything will have a meaning. And has a reason. And for it to be understood. And very recently, I started speaking a lot about the cycle of my life, for in the future or present, you come to understand how the whole thing about the structure, the information, the knowledge comes about. Because, by example, I try to make a lot of things very clear for you to understand. So we decide, and partially is given to, and partially how we connect it to. But in essence, it makes sense. In essence, you see the pattern. If you remember, I told you, I mentioned in some other teachings, when I studied as a nuclear physicist or nuclear engineer, when my degree came, it came in a cardboard tube, like a set of toilet paper. So when I opened it, I was puzzled, what's this? Why have I received a total roll tube? And then when I noticed my degree was inside it, I took it out, I stuck it on the toilet roll. I says, Mom, my mom said, what's this here? I said, this is my degree. That's how much it's worth. Because I'm not going to use it in the dimension you want. But before I go to university, before I become going to nuclear physics, I became one of the top students in course I was doing in the United Kingdom. More or less the top guy in that year, with 86.3% right across. And because of that high level, any university, anything I wanted to do was possible. So my sister, being in the medical and dental school of my university, goes to see the medical people, university side, and I was no intention. I see blood, I go crazy. Now, that's why I developed the wellness without any blood, because I can do it without ever touching this thing. So my mom came to me one Friday afternoon in the summertime, on that time, and she said, we're going to a movie tonight. I said, Mom, it's Friday or Saturday night, 10 o'clock at night, you go to sleep. Why do you want to go to a movie? No, your sister is coming, we're going to a movie, we're going to watch a movie. I said, Mom goes to bed 9, 10. Now we're going to a movie. We go to a movie. The movie called, if you go back on the internet, called China Syndrome. China Syndrome in nuclear technology is when we say if a nuclear reactor melts, goes through the earth, and it comes out the other side, and even matter where you are, the other side is always China, according to philosophy of the world. And so the story of the movie is, you can watch it. There's a nuclear reactor controller. The reactor goes control. At the end, they shoot him and they kill him, or he gets shot. And then we go and watch this movie. We come out of the cinema, and my mom is crying. Says, "Look, your sister has got you a place. Be meant to go to become a doctor in Manchester University. You don't need to go to London and do this crazy thing. You see what happened to the guy? They're gonna kill you. Why do you want to get killed?" I said, Mom, all this commotion going to the movie was just because you and my sister decided you want me to become a medical man, a doctor, not me. Blood and me are two opposite sides. It carries too much emotional pain. She couldn't get me working. She couldn't change my mind. It was a disaster. And then all the dreams came afterwards. Exactly what, how do we say, what was, what is. And I told you about the coming down and watching her crying, and I said this was some time later, after I got into university and I was going to go to university, I said, "Mom, why are you crying?" She said, "I had a dream of the Prophet carrying your body in white." And I said to him, "Is he dead?" He said, "No, he's one of us." And he said, "You're going to die." I said, "Mom, what does it mean?" She said, "I saw you being carried by him, and you were all in white." I said, "That's good. At least I know where I'm going." And she started laughing. He said, "Everything to you is a joke." We connect, we understand. Depends what we want the dream to connect. We remember the part we want because it suits us to justify the dimension of physicality. Many times you come across people who, especially when they're in old age, they say, "Oh, they're talking to dead." They see all the uncles, cousins who passed away because they're prepared to feel safe to go, because this is the way they feel safe. They know the journey starts. Many people in the last few days, weeks of their life, especially elderly, they tell you they're talking to dead because they say, "Oh, I saw this, I saw that," because in a way the emotion of the transmutation is getting open. That dimension of emotion is accepted. So you allow certain emotions, and that emotion brings you towards who already died. Now we understand the process. At the same time, it goes the way I said about the football player. You, in the stadium, create that emotion. And if you create that emotion of 100,000 people wanting to go to Mars and create the right strength showing through the, not a physical ball on the football ground, but the ball as a moon, you can transmute the whole 100,000 to moon instantaneously. But can you imagine what mayhem will be there? Would they all transmute as this? You see 100,000 stones or 100,000 worms running around? Would they know all how to come back and watch the rest of the football? You look at, I speak about this because it's the emotion which creates. They don't tell you a lot of things, but go back to the history of the book. I'm a football lover by childhood. I remember one of the times I went to the 100,000 capacity stadium in Tehran. Was a football match, which is today unthinkable. Today's state of situation. The match was between Iran and Israel. It was one of the league games of the Asian Games, and it was said, in a way, as you know, everything gets organized in the football team, even the World Cup, most of it is planned, who's going to be there. I watched the Iranian football team playing against national team of Israel on the Tehran soil. We were the only nation which accepted the state of Israel. And what was interesting for me was how the whole 100,000 people were shouting Iran. And how that 11 players of Israel were deaf to this emotion because they were trained, your world is that ball. And if you can find a match Watch it. It was a very interesting match. How it was one-sided. They decided that Iran has to win, and the goal was not allowed, and the rest of the commotion with it, which is normal with these things. In a way, as half Jewish, half Muslim, and totally Iranian, it brought me a lot of emotion. Who do you support? And why the emotion has to come by who you support and not just enjoy the game. I've been to football matches, I've seen the joy of the team I support and the other team, but this had a lot of religion, nationalism, and a little bit of football in it. But at the end, when the game finished, didn't matter who played on the football pitch. It was all the beautiful game. And I said to my uncle, we watched 3 things together today. He said, Mehran, let's go out with an ice cream. You think too much. You think too much, you understand too much. But if we create that emotion as in a football match, and that was the soul of the creator playing with our soul, would we watch the match the same way? Or it changes the emotion because still we fear of a loss. As I said, when I came down to my mother, she explained to me that she saw my body being carried, and she asked the Prophet, is he dead? He said, no, he's one of us. I said to Mom, you didn't want me to become a nuclear physicist, and you don't let me go the other way. Why are you crying? Either way, I'm going to get killed, I'm dead. What is the worry? What emotion we carry dictates the condition of the dream. And we understand this, what emotion we carry from the first teachings of the medical part. Now you understand. Decides the position, the time and the place, the shape, the color, and even the word we speak of our existence. We have to decide in which part is what we decided to have and what's the reason of that dream. Or is it a message for the next steps, for next stages? And what we learn from it, what we remember from it, and what we change for that to happen or not to happen. Any other question?
Okay, continuing along in the similar theme, again from Maria this time. This was her first question. How can it be that I welcome brother wind in a storm and that am protected by so much warmth of love around me? Love is transformative. Is ordinary love anything other than being love itself? If love is transforming into a being of light, as some saints already were, like Jesus and others, is it still an emotion, since the emotion comes from the brain and leads some people astray, perhaps? Dearest thanks and my warmest greetings in love, Mary.
It depends. Is it the wind of love or is it a physical wind and how we separate and distinguish between the two. Is it flood of it? That's all it is. So much of it that it touches us. And the air is always there. When is so much of it going so fast, we call it the wind. Is it the same with love? Is it the same with emotion? So much of it comes, and can we handle it? It's very much doesn't give us elevation. The strong wind moves us, blows us across the road, blows us the wind, the leaves or the others. Would not love would do the same, makes us move. What we call it love, that emotional wind. And to what extent? And what we learn from that emotional wind, we call love, or whatever you want to call it. You know, you go visit one of the states, because it's Seattle, which is a windy city or whatever. Do you want to especially go and live in that place because it's always windy? Or do you want to go to desert which hardly, is warm and maybe the wind, but it's a warm wind. You don't want a cold wind. Would you like, do you find love in the ice or cold, or do you find love in heat and warmth? And there's the same emotion created by both conditions. And it's the same with love. It's the same what we do, what we want, and where we want to be in respect to what time and position, because each one raises different emotion. You got to remember, you got to understand, interaction between the fields of the physicality and the fields of the soul of the man create their own emotion, even though each one has his own emotion. And that emotion is a decision maker for bringing the man, because it's accepted by both in reaction and views on them. You go through this process of emotion and the soul, and the loss of a son becomes a cancer. The pain of a son becomes a prostate cancer. The pain of the love with the mother becomes a cancer in the left breast, and the pain of the love with the lover becomes a cancer in the right breast. In the future, the scientists with the same kind of emotion will tell you which testicle has a cancer because of which child. And in the future, scientists will come to understand why it's better to have a child of the soul than the child of physicality. Child of the soul comes from the love of balance of the both soul of physicality and the soul of the man, from both sides, which means there are 4 factors to get one, and they all have to be in balance, and it'll be perfect. In the dimension of physicality, we put every emotion into it, and then, because we cannot reach it, we direct it to ourselves, and we create a cancer inside ourselves, because the child is gone. We cannot do anything, it's departed, it's left the body of the mother. The mother is within you because you're born from it. The child is part of you, you still get the emotion collected. Why do we get the cancer when it's to do with the lover on the right side? Don't we give with the right hand? And don't we receive with the left hand? And because we gave so much in the right hand and you went wrong, you want to cut that part off. So you create cancer on the right side with the lover. With the left is where you receive love, the love of the mother, the love of the child. But don't forget, sits on the right side of the brain, the left breast. Control of it. Every functionality of it. Then you understand why even the cycle of the birth, the ovaries with a man and a woman's testicles are positioned different, and why emotion of the man is different than the woman, and the man has all collected in one part, even separated slightly from each other, but the woman's dimension is separated totally inside. Man has not understood the connection between the soul of the man and even the physical structure of the man through the soul of physicality. That is you who controls that cancer. And even the position of the cancer is controlled by the emotion. I don't want to sit because it's time for me to go where. Now you understand, even before we start these 500 teachings or whatever, all those teachings we did with Dr. Costello. And every session, every section which had to do with that part, emotion was put in. 10 years later, now you might understand. Now that the teaching has gone far enough that you can understand. Any other question?
Okay. Perhaps we can get, well, let's go to Nina in YouTube, who asks, what happens after the soul leaves the physicality?
You call it death. You just got a pile of material which made the working in the factory closed. The production is done. It was a prototype. Every soul is one prototype. So you build a machine for it to make the prototype. Now we cannot use it again. You call it death. You leave the machine behind, called the body of the man. That's all. It's a one-off production. Any other question?
I was wondering if someone identifies really strongly with their physicality, then upon death, do they stick with the physicality rather than rise with the soul in a way?
No. The job is done. So you can't. It's a very strange phenomena, but it's hard to understand for a lot. we are created out of the interaction of the fields, and the fields take us where they brought us. And if you understand this, doesn't matter what physicality you put on it, how many bits you hang on it. It's very much like this, putting a man naked in the coffin or dressing up with the most beautiful clothes and jewelry and put him in a coffin. That's just the physicality, it's gone and done. Do you want to spend money on it or you don't want to spend money on it? And how much emotion you want to attach to it. And how you accept that perception of the physical leftover. Pharaohs were put in with all the gold and everything else, and their wives and whatever children, whatever was supposed to be done. The Muslims take everything up and put it in with a white robe, what they call it, cloth. And they buy flowers and do whatever afterwards. The Jews put it in the coffin, never spend a single penny on it afterwards because it's God was used of spending money on it. And it depends how we see it. And Zoroastrians put it on the mountain and share the physicality with the others. Leftover is not important. Because we never understood the soul of the man was within and is produced, it reaches maturity and is on its way and is gone. And don't forget, it's instantaneous where it goes. It's not going to wander around to find a place and position. Zero time communication. As you go on to what I call fields of the universe, and there is no resistance, as is the dimension of the fields, interaction and accommodation. I wonder one day man will make a communication system on the soul basis to create the zero time communication. The tools of it has been given, is in the teaching, and many of you have made it, but you don't know it. Any other question?
Okay, we have a technical question here on Ganses. From Jan, who says, I'm looking for information that I can't find. Maybe you have the answer. I read that it was necessary to make water charged with a GANS in a glass or plastic bottle, but that you did not need a stainless steel bottle. I can't find the reason for this. Do you know why? Because I have a 8-liter stainless steel gravity water filter and I put my GANS tubes inside. Thank you for your reply.
Steel is in line with the gravitational field of the Earth as being an ion, and creates a line of interaction, and that's the reason. And I always advise, if you make a CO2, your best container is a plastic container. If you're making other things, anything which is carbon-based, plastic is good because it creates a balance holding. It creates a nano-structure of the structure, if you understand it. Anything else, keep it in the glass jars. If you come to the labs of the Keshe Foundation, we hold more or less all our gases in glass jars for that reason. Any other question?
Okay, We had a question from the Brazilian community from Celso via Cristiano. Can you explain why the wisdom teeth exist? Apparently, they have no function and cause pain and suffering in most people due to their disordered growth requiring surgical interference. Is this an imbalance between the soul of the man, the soul of physicality, and the physicality?
That's a puzzle, isn't it? Why they call it the wisdom tooth. And it's mainly because it's our interpretation, nobody else's. It's supposed to grow at a point back where by that time your jaw has grown big enough and you have to go to the history of the man's life, how we evolved. Wisdom tooth is part of the evolution. And don't forget, most of the men by the age of 18 those days, they lost most of their teeth at the front. They needed a support bit. Most of the teeth at the front were lost, so the tooth move in and it gives you a thing to chew, at least something you wanted for another 5 or 10 years till they rotted as well. That's the whole reason for generation of it. Then it's like what you call bits of the body which was not needed, but now it's become part of. There's a fish in Iceland which can crush the shell of the oysters or mussels, and it's a very hard thing, and it breaks most of his teeth. And then this happens during the summertime when he feeds, and then winter time, because it cannot feed, all the broken tooth come back up, and they literally get a new set for next year. And what we see with the jaws, they break the tooth and just literally another one comes up. And the man went through the same process. We could keep these teeth for maybe 10 years, 12 years, 15 years, some of it was lost. You have to remember, in the time of pre-18th centuries, before we got access to, or 19th centuries, because before we get access to sugar or whatever, people lose their tooth for whatever reason. But in 1,000 years ago, there was no so much loss. It was just coming by breakages and everything else. So those were there to support the last stage of life, and life span was different way. So now, 18 years later, the brain has decided it's a good time to put in new ones. There were no tooth, so they came out naturally. They didn't come crooked. Nowadays, we do every dental surgery, everything else. The tooth doesn't fall out to create a room for it to grow, and we get all the complications of today's, what you call, wisdom tooth. It had every reason for your ancestors. It has every reason in the villages of Amazon and Africa. But in the Western world, with all the interference and everything else, interventions we do, all our teeth stays. And then there's no room for it by age of 18. And that's roughly when it came, brain sets itself. It's like that when you 9 or 10 or 12, you mature section. It's part of the process of creation. Is that, but it had a reason. It's a good reason for it to do. Nowadays, we intervene so much that is in our 80s and 90s, we carry 80% of our natural birth tooth at the age of 7. At 65, I think I have only two, actually one, which is been planted. The rest is what I brought from childhood. What we ate, diets, everything else, dental intervention allows us to keep our tooth into our, maybe in the 1890s, 100s. Those days it wasn't there. and change of diet has brought these changes, and we somewhere needed it in African nations, and I mean poor nations, and in tribes in Amazon. I don't think many people have that problem because they go through the natural process. But they call it wisdom because it came, and they always thought when you're 18 you're wise. So they gave everything. In the British culture, when you're 18, they used to give you the key to the house because you're wise enough to look after the house. And the day before 18, you were not mature enough. It's the same with the two. The others, you go and take all of them out in one go. When you're 18, 19, you take one out, two out, because with the pressure of it not having room, it can deform the front tooth and all the veins of it. But if you're born 400 years ago, 500 years ago, this took millions of years to program for the brain. You lost most of your tooth, at least some of it at the front, so it was room. It comes in to back up another 10 years of life that you can chew and eat. Any other question? By the way, in so many talking about this, I was explaining just the knowledge cake yesterday. Was it this morning? Yesterday, I can't remember. Our knowledge now has reached the point that we can grow a tooth. We understand the process of it, to grow a tooth, put it that way. Because a piece of puzzle was missing in how you grow a tooth. What's the reason that you can initiate the growth of the tooth? And now we are testing it. And I'm pretty sure 100% we should be able to grow a tooth if our scientists who work on it understand the process themselves. Understand why at the age of 6 or 7 you lose your tooth, and why that 7 years is crucial, or 6 years. Understand the system, why which tooth is lost. We don't choose. Tooth as 6, 7 is replaced in a specific way. It's not random. And it comes the age of first maturity. Then the wisdom tooth comes in the second cycle of what you call maturity, we call it. You can dictate, shape the future of a child. You have every say in it. Till age of 7, 6 or 7. After that, it becomes on its own. You have molded the character of the child. Now the child is unknown. The child, or the brain, or the body, sheds the childhood, what people had controlled in what I eat, what I put in my mouth. Now I decide. This is why we have 2 sets of tooth. One in the birth cycle, one in the second cycle. No animal does this. Watch your child till 6, 7, when the start of the dropping of the tooth. You put in front, he eats. No, he decides, I don't want this, I want this, I want that. I want to do this. We have phases of maturity physically and emotionally in different parts of the cycle of life. 6. Then you have 12, 13, and then 6 cycle later, you have the 18. We're born 6, 5, 6, 7, we shed our physical tooth. Around about 12, 13, we become mature sexually. And then 18, 20, we become mature, you call the wisdom to physicality, and the dimension of emotion is supposed to have control over. Life has a cycle. And where you live, what diet you have, shifts this a little bit, I don't know. Any other question?
We have a question from Fushi Fush. It's in, I believe, German, but he's given a translation about the calcification of the pancreas. I think it might not be the pancreas, but perhaps it is. He says pancreas. Some people talk about the calcification of the third eye, the gland, the pineal gland. But
Do we find a stone in there, Sally?
So he's asking, which GANs can I take to stop the punctual calcification of, well, pancreas or perhaps any organ or gland.
Oh, you have a kidney one. You have a gallbladder stone. Where else do we find a stone? Do we find a stone in the heart? Yes, we can do that. Calcification. That creates death. Very by is the emotion of the heart when you get the calcification in the heart. It's a very rare disease. About 10, 15 people at any time in the world have this disease. You can change calcification if you understand the process of how and what emotion is behind it or what fields has created it. And you have to use it in conjunction. That's why when there is no emotion, it's just a field strength. We see viruses like Corona. If it's at the strength of the calcium, when it touches it, the calcium seed of every cell now changes that cell to the strength of cell. In a way, it gravitizes it to calcium. So we see death with a lot of people with corona, with the heart, or with lung, with massive calcification, because it's a fielding strength. It's just you have a magnet, which is still like an iron magnet. So anything iron, it attracts yourself because it has that field strength. It's the same with the calcification of the cells in the body or creation of a stone, which is the field strength environment which dictates the calcification. And you have to find out what it is, and if you create the wind of the calcium in it, yes, it's possible. You can interact with it, but it's a knowledge we, as Keshe Foundation, have gathered over years. Any other question?
Question in our Q&A from Ione. Hello, Mr. Keshe. You were kind enough to tell us once more, what is the difference between transmutation and transportation? Because you often use these two words together. It seems like they occur simultaneously. Thank you.
Transmutation is when we transfer through the energy. Transportation is when you do the physicality. You dream through transmutation. You travel through physicality, get on a plane, you go in a car. Have you ever seen a car driving out of your brain? And because we have two souls of physicality and the soul of the man, they too, in the transmutation of the body, you then manifest in physicality. And so you can do the both. Teleportation doesn't exist just because people made the television. Now they made a word for it, which is a good dream. But transmutation is very simple. It's done through the energy levels without the physicality. Transportation is what's connected to physicality. You can still carry a dead body across a plane to another continent. You show me how you're going to carry the soul of the body which was in it. So it transmutes. Many times, I've said that many times, people may understand it. At the point of the burying the soul, the physicality of the man, the soul of physicality is present. Many times. Any other question?
Okay.
You run out of questions. Shall we call it?
Well, there's a couple more, but you're doing quite well. Let's. I've got one in German that I need to translate. That might take
Those of you, while you're translating, those of you who come to the session tomorrow and next week, you will have a fantastic time. Maybe you come a step closer to transmutation, where last week we worked with, or last sessions we worked with transportation. It'll be an amazing time in these two sessions. I want to see how, as knowledge seekers, come to it. We start the session with just normal welcoming you, and then at the end of the session we just say goodbye. It could be 1 hour, it could be 2 hours, and I'll receive continuously the graphs, and then we decide. It could be 3 hours. But how you feel, how you come out of that session tomorrow, and then next Friday, it'll be an amazing experiment and knowledge for us. And as usual, we share it with you to understand. But it brings you one step closer to understanding the direction of transmutation, the essence of the energies of transmutation, and how you can transmute. We most probably bring this dimension in London conference in an amazing way. Any other question? Or have you managed to translate yet?
I haven't done the translation yet. I'm still trying to figure out the other questions here, but maybe we can just address one or two more and then we can wrap up. Lee's News says, recently on social media, we can see more and more videos showing people suddenly disappearing. If these are real, I cannot imagine the fear between human beings. I don't know if this is a question or I need confirmation about that. Any rumors of people disappearing?
Camera magic is a lot of them. Camera magic is a lot of games played, but reality can happen. You are learning how to do it. But it's the knowledge of understanding how to transfer energy. Up to now, we transferred. You know what is very interesting in all these teachings, and how puzzles me sometimes, how man tries for man to be ignorant because it suits him, because he doesn't understand, so he doesn't look stupid. There's a few things we have We do, we just don't talk about it because it's there, and then becomes you. What is the day and night? How come we got the daytime? How come we got the daylight? Just because Earth rotates and faces the sun itself in its environment, if we go into outside Earth, it's always dark. How come we have a daylight suddenly when it comes to Earth? Because we never wanted to understand the interaction of the fields of the Earth. Gravitational magnetical with the sun creates friction of plasma, we call it daylight. And the photons, or whatever it is, through connection to the field, the strength of the center of the Earth getting pulled in, we have a continuous daylight. So now we understand this, but you go outside Keshe Foundation, you ask anybody, there is no explanation. Now we have the knowledge, we understand. It's the same with other factors in life. Now we understand, we can scientifically explain. And we try to be ignorant, because ignorance is a blessing, because it doesn't show we don't know. And this is the same with these kind of questions. Now you understand the world of plasma and what it does, so it should be easy to understand it and to explain it. Next question.
The German question was from Joseph, and it's, hello, I was at the meetings on September 8th and 15th, but unfortunately I didn't receive any feedback diagram. Greetings, Joseph. Were there diagrams or publications that were available to people?
It was sent to people individually. Send a message to info@keshefoundation.com. Maybe it's been kept and it hasn't been sent, or it's an email waiting to go out, or you've been just somewhere been sent. Check your what do you call it, Google, or check your junk mail. Google has decided that if Keshe Foundation sends more than 4 or 5 messages, they just dump it as a junk, or they don't transfer it. We don't know why. Everything has been sent out. We were discussing this with our promoters this week too. Somehow Google has put a filter on Keshe Foundation, as usual. And if our officers send certain numbers, even one, they block it, or they send it to junk, or people don't receive it. Check your junk. If you haven't received it, send a message to info and see what it is, because everybody else has received it. You understand, these sessions we run is so time consuming. We can't send a mass email. Most of it, sometimes we have to go individually. When it's 100 of you, every single one, every email has to be posted mainly one by one. And it's also some problems with what do you call it, with Google, with the Keshe Foundation. Any other question?
Well, you have it pretty much nailed here.
When you expect something, sorry, just one second. When you expect some message back from Keshe Foundation, especially if you have a Google account holder or Gmail account holder, especially Gmail, check your, what do you call it, junk section. And if you don't receive it, send a reminder, because everything is sent. It's something Gmail has decided to do with Keshe Foundation. Any other question?
From Akash in the Q&A here, it says, I used the reactor with the nano-coated coil with the copper plate. I have placed the reactor on a red light therapy light for a while. When I made a picture, the green LED turned black. After a long time, I did see copper crystallization on the plate. Can you explain more about this phenomena?
Repeat, please.
Well, he had a reactor with a nano-coated coil with a copper plate, and after a long time, he saw copper crystallization on the plate.
This is quite possible, but this comes from the field interactions of different layers of the nano-layer and environment. In a way, you take a copper, you nano-coat it, and then the interaction of the fields of the copper takes the copper from the center of, let's say, if you have a wire, you have nano-coated the atomic structure of the copper, but you create the same thing in the other side of the copper. So it comes to a nano, becomes fields, and then the last layer pulls it back in, and you get the copper from the center on the top. This is very normal, natural phenomenon. Depends on mixture of the copper, depends on the way you nano-coated it. And usually when you get it, if it's not instantaneous and you are in the water, it turns green, oxidizes immediately. This is very normal. In a way, you take the one atom of the copper or one molecule of the structure from the center through nano-coating, and then because of the field strength changes outside, it through the gravitational pull of the center copper, it just manifests itself as a copper. It's very much transmutation, but in a matter state of the element. Can we call it a day?
Well, we've got John Wells with a hand up here. Maybe we can let him go ahead, and that'll be it for today then.
Yes. Good day, Mr. Keshe. Here in Uruguay, there's been a very big ecological accident in a paper plant. They've spilt 1,000 cubic meters of caustic soda into a river. And it's made a big mess there. And this will end up in the River Plate in the end. But what is the possibility of neutralizing this or correcting it? The pH in the water right now is 13.
There are different ways to do it, very rapid ways to do it. Use the one way to do it is to use hydrogen gas. The other way to do it, use the gas of zinc and copper together. Just flood it, and you will see the change in pH very rapidly.
Fine. Well, we hope the people there in Uruguay will listen to this and get their hands to it. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you change when you add the hydrogen to it at such a high level, you push it to become, what do you call it, alkaline, the acidic, and the reverse. It leads to creation of life, if you understand it. Or you use zinc and copper, and you bring in natural ways of, what do you call it, the caustic, into process of creation of hydrogen and CO2. It's a very easy way to change it. If you have a free gas of hydrogen, you can throw it in the water or bring it near to it. They should. It's so alkaline that you change it to acid. But the environment is so alkaline, acidic, that it becomes like a sugar of life.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you indeed. If you have a caustic burn, try it. It works amazing. It's like when you have a hot water burn, you put CO2 on it, the paint reduces. With caustics, if it goes so high, you have to change it. But at the same time, you have to introduce the element of balance, which is the same. You put the hydrogen, you put the CO2, so what do you call it, copper, and a zinc. You create a diversity, and you neutralize it. It becomes balance 7, more or less. Thank you very much for today. And we'll meet some of you tomorrow. You'll have one of the most amazing journeys. And as I said, if you're coming to London for the conference, make sure you complete it, because the promotion, I think, it starts on Monday worldwide. There's something I have to explain. It was important to explain it very carefully and direct. We saw people who caused us a lot of problem in in Germany and other functions, embassies and whatever. Please understand, if you're so selfish, you want to do this and stop the man to become free from all the shackles of what we call creators for himself, carry on with your work. We know you are all connected to pedophile groups, 95% of you. And we know what you think you want to do, or whatever it is. Do not forget, we're dealing with the government, and we pass all your inputs directly to your governments to be handled by them. One of the biggest nations will suffer will be Germany, especially with the German people. Will hand all your inputs, whatever you've done, whatever you try to do, to your government. You will understand the reason very, very quickly. This time, as this is a process of the international work, we have allowed our promoters to allow Belgium, Governor of Belgium, to be represented if they decide so in this meeting. As it has to be equal to everyone. In this conference, we allow any Belgians who applies to attend the conference. We cannot bring peace if you bring a division. We make it very clear to the Belgian nationals and to the government. This is the last time we give you a chance to, in a way, understand your position. The same goes for the Dutch, and the same goes for the citizens of the State of Dubai. What they call United Arab Emirates. We keep this conference international and open, and all your leaders are invited if they want to join. You have access to your governments, your presidents or whatever, and you want to make them aware, you let us know. Our team, our promoting team directly will send message directly through you or whatever you have. They have access to all the presidential offices and the rest. It is one of the top companies. We know they will handle it themselves. But if you have access or private access to certain ministers or cabinet ministers or leaders of the parties, send it to info@keshe.foundation, and we send these to our promoters and to do. And they will be inviting your leaders to be. The session will not go public on Zoom. as it will be done. There is a reason for it. And we'll announce in the next few days what is the position with the conference in Beijing. Beijing is very much like Saudi Arabia and United Arab Emirates. The governments have to authorize a conference can take place. And we have started the process, and we'll see what we get from the Chinese government if they allow such a meeting to go. And we have requested the presence of His Excellency President Xi to open the conference in Beijing. We soon will have an answer for it, and we'll see what they appoint if he's going to be present, and we match it accordingly. So we have put everything aside to share knowledge with all many. In the conference in London has to become the center for peace and work of the peace in a correct way. We hopefully see some of you there, and in the coming time, we will announce the new position for exhibition in London, as everything from this will move to London as the central position. Thank you very much, and see you next week.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Mr. Keshe. Thank you for the 506 Knowledge Seekers Workshop here today on Thursday, October 5th. And we look forward to the next public teaching workshop, which is the Testimonials meeting, the public meeting for testimonials on the 9th of October. It's Monday the 9th, and that starts at the 8 p.m. Central European time. And if you have any personal testimonials of the plasma technology, then that is an excellent opportunity to help pay back for receiving such knowledge and sharing it with others. So again, the testimonials on the 9th of October, Monday the 9th at 8 p.m. Then the next public teaching workshop will be in the One Nation, One Planet, One Race for World Peace and Justice. That'll be on Tuesday, the 10th of October, and that starts at the 4 p.m. Central European time. Okay, I think that's it for announcements for now. Thank you, everybody, for attending today and for being part of the plasma teachings. And we look forward to the same next week at the same time and place. Okay, bye for now. Thank you again, Mr. Keshe, for everything you do. And also our background image today was from Jedi Simon. Thank you very much for donating those artwork backgrounds. We appreciate that. Okay, bye everyone, and we'll go out with the flight enhancement spaceship unit music version, as we like to do here, and see you in the next public teaching workshop.